Okay, Maggie Shofadia, maiden name was Margaret Julia Clark, born in Northern Ireland in the town of Ballymena in the Cottage Hospital.
Okay, tell me how you happened to get all the way from Northern Ireland to Crossroads Church.
Oh wow, there's a story. Well, I did all my sort of initial education in Northern Ireland. Then I went to nursing school in London and did nursing and midwifery. And a church where I was attending, I got good friends with a Nigerian family. And Fumi, the lady, decided that she would do a little matchmaking. So she, over the phone, over the internet, introduced me to her uncle. It's Michael Shofadia. And we got talking, and we enjoyed talking. So we then decided we needed to meet up. And the Lord had a plan, I suppose, because he then got us to decide that we needed to get married. And so the interesting thing is, though, that yes, Fumi introduced us, but I was living in London, and Michael was living in PG County in Maryland, near close to Washington, D.C. So when we decided that we were going to get married, we had to decide which country we were going to be in. So of course we prayed about it, thought about all the logistics, and I decided to move to US. So that's...
And your parents didn't object?
Well, actually, that's interesting you should ask that. When I explained or shared my plan with my parents, my dad sent me an email, because they were living in South Africa. They sent an email, 2 pages of email, the first page of which was normal things I'd expect any father to ask, does he work, does he got good prospects, what things do you have in common? And the second page was about cultural and racial differences, and what if we were to have children, would they not be disadvantaged being mixed race? And my father did actually quote an Old Testament verse where it admonishes the Jews not to marry those of different... Well, my father understood it as a different race, a different people group. But in my understanding, it's actually the Jews were not to marry non-Jews, i.e. it was a faith issue rather than a people group or a racial issue. I prayed for a lot of wisdom at that time, because I wanted to respect my father's concern for me. But I asked him, I says, if you can find the verse in the Old Testament that says that it's a matter of race rather than religion, please let me know, because I need to know very soon. And after about a month, he came back to me and honestly told me that he could not find the verse. And I think that probably is related a lot to cultural understanding, because I come from Northern Ireland, where there are essentially 2 white races that are very different from each other. And then my father and mother went to live in South Africa, where there are at least 3 white tribes and more than 10 black tribes, all living in the Republic of South Africa.
Over here. Okay. I'm sorry, but they're gonna have people coming through here.
Okay, very quickly.
Yeah.
One of the main things I want to know is our politics in this country right now are so divisive. And I've read about Protestants and Catholics. I could not understand how one would know one was a Catholic unless one told them. Is in your country now does the divisiveness still exist between Protestants and Catholics?
I think, yes, there is still a division, but it's not as sharp as it was in the 60s and 70s. It's more of a social divide. It's a social and historical divide. which happens to also be related to, you know, your allegiance, or your parents or your family's allegiance to the Protestant or the Roman Catholic side of
Does that mean the parents of the Catholic girl would go nuts if she wanted to marry a Protestant boy?
In the 60s and 70s, yes, it would probably have meant that the couple would have to have left Northern Ireland. Now, it's not necessarily the case. It depends a little bit on the families, of course, and the community in which they decide to live. But I have a cousin who has married a Roman Catholic girl, and they seem to be accepted on both sides of the community.
Okay, as an ending question, what do you like most about Crossroads Church?
I love the variety of people that God has brought together in Crossroads. I think it's very special. It's unusual. Because, you know, let's face it, most people will gravitate to people that they perceive to be the same as themselves. When I think of what it's going to be like in heaven, there's going to be a whole bunch of people that are totally different, even from the folks here at Crossroads. But I think that it's just a little foretaste of heaven. It's not without its challenges, but it sure makes life very interesting, and it's very rich because there's so much diversity. But yes, it's challenging sometimes.
I agree. Thank you very much.
Okay.